And three, two, one. Hello and welcome back, folks, to another edition of a Humanistic Perspective podcast. We have a very exciting episode for you today, and I'm very excited to introduce my guest, folks. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined with Aidan Jones. Aidan is a comedian, an international touring comedian, all the way living in Australia. He does removals, and I'm very, very excited and eager to jump into this conversation. How are you? And good morning, Aidan.
What's going on, bro? Thanks so much for having me on the pod.
Yeah, of course, of course.
That's so funny. I think like he does removals like as if it's like
as if it's something like
in
fucking
any way,
amazing, like
as if it's like in any way connected to comedy at all.
That's fantastic. So I want to take an opportunity to explore your life and get to know you way more if we could. Take me.
Yeah, bro, I'd love
What was
that.
your childhood like, man?
I grew up in Adelaide. I don't know. So I live in Melbourne, but I grew up in Adelaide. I don't know if people know Adelaide. It's a city of like 1 point something million people.
Sick.
But they call it like a big country town, like it's a very spread out city. There's not a lot of big streets and stuff. There's like we have one tram and a few trains.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's kind of a quiet town of a million people.
Sick. And what was the school system like? What was life like in the house, parent wise too? What was that like?
Yeah, it was all good. I can start at the start, I guess. I'm mixed race, half Colombian, because my mum was backpacking when she was 22. She came back to Australia and found out she was pregnant. So that's me. And I never met my biological dad. They spoke for a few months after I was born, but he was in Colombia. He couldn't come. So they just were like, all right, well, that's that. So my mom was a single mom when I was born.
Wow.
But she met my dad, my stepdad. I call him my dad when I was 2.
Sure.
And they had my little brother who's like 4.5 years younger than me. And so that was my family growing up.
Beautiful. And what was the dynamic like? Were you a troublemaker? Were you play by the rules? Were you good in school? Sort of, what was your headspace like?
Oh man, I was so good in school. I crushed school. I'm telling you, I fucking was like, I remember, I went to a public primary school, but the public school system in Australia is pretty good, and the school that I went to, a primary school, was really good. And then I got a scholarship to a private school, so it was like half like academic scholarship. And I remember my teacher in year 7, Mrs. Teese, who fucking loved me. I was such a fucking swatty little fuck. And I remember she took me aside after school one day, and I was like 12, and this lady's like 50, and she was like, Aidan, you've got the scholarship. You've got everything you need to succeed in this life. You've got the brains, you've got the looks, you've got the talent. And I was like, the looks. Like a 12-year-old kid. And she's like, I was like, yeah, man, my teacher thinks I'm hot. This is sick.
Yeah, that's the only thing that registered. You're like, the other stuff passed.
Yeah. Or just what a weird thing to say to a kid,
Oh, facts. Totally. But that's
I guess she needed a
private
third
school
thing,
for you, right?
Yeah. This is true. They got to build you up.
Sure. So, damn. All right. High school time? Did you go to college? What were you planning on doing? Where did you know that you wanted to become a comedian? Was that always going to become the path? Like, sort of give me that scenario.
Man, I played I went to high school, finished high school. The system's a bit different here. So like you finish high school here when you're 17. I don't know if that's the same as the States.
It's about 17, 18, yeah.
Yeah, and then but some people don't. Some people like drop out at 15 and then go get a trade, and so that's like your tradesman. And then after school though, you go to university. There's no college thing, it's just university. So you go straight to your bachelor. And if you don't go to university, that's not like I know in the States, if you don't go to college, that's like fucked, right?
Yeah, like it's pretty much status quo. If you don't know what you do, you're probably going to college.
Yeah. So in Oz, if you don't know what you're doing, I went to uni, but I didn't finish. I dropped out twice. I started doing a Bachelor of Science of what I would tell people. High performance computational physics was the name of the course.
Hell
Because
yes, bro. You're a
no,
physics man?
dude, not hell yes, man. I was such a fucking arrogant little cunt, and I was just like, yeah, man. Like I just did that course so that I could tell people that I was doing that
Doing that.
course.
Oh, that's the worst reason to get into that.
Of course, right? And I did 6 weeks, and I dropped out.
How many
And
how
then
many of your colleagues were taking Adderall just to finish their coursework?
Yeah, totally, man. Well, I didn't meet anyone in the courses. Like I went to uni. I didn't do anything. I went there. I must have done like 2 or 3 weeks of lectures, but I spent most of my time at the bar. And I did psychology was so my courses in that were like physics, maths, I think I did logic and psychology. And I did psychology because there was heaps of girls in the class. And I spent the whole of my first month trying to get with this blonde girl called Hazel. And that didn't work out. And then after a while, I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna drop out then.
Hell yes. Yeah, no, you had better things to do. Why waste the time and the money? I don't know if is university as expensive as college is here.
It's not as expensive, but also you get a loan from the government and you don't have to pay it back until you start
What?
earning whatever amount of money, which I do not earn. So I haven't paid my loan back.
And so wait, you're telling me like if there's some people right now who could be chilling in their like mid to late 30s and like still maybe aren't making the like income amount that you need to and don't have to pay it?
Yeah, legit. I think it's
That's
so my
wild.
loan, I think it's called a Hex Debt. I don't know what
Okay,
that
cool.
stands for, but it's yeah, mine's like 12 grand, which is pretty low.
Yeah, yeah, that's not
You
bad.
can have up to 100 grand.
So that's like a
Um
doctor or something.
yeah. Oh, I think that's just as much as you're allowed before the government caps it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, mine's at 12 grand, and I think I need to earn like 50 grand taxable a year before I pay that back, which is,
Mm.
I think last year I cleared like 40 something. So maybe I'll have to start paying it back next year.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
But
just
yeah,
getting
it's
around there
it's pretty
now.
calm, man. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's fascinating. What else? What like do kangaroos are they everywhere? Is that like a raccoon here? Do people hit them like they're bugs or
Man,
something?
Man, it's funny. People ask that question, and normally, like, especially British people often ask, like, "What is there like spiders? Do you get like snakes in your ass?" And I'm like, man, I live in a fucking city. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. You're like, I see
but
the same fucking Ubers you see in your city.
yeah, but actually, last week I saw on Instagram footage of a fucking kangaroo hopping down someone's street. So
Are they
maybe not.
vicious?
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Damn. Are they vicious creatures? Like, do you have to watch out for them?
No, they're pretty chill. If you go like way out bush, the red kangaroos, which are really big, will I've heard I've never like been attacked or anything like that. And
Mm.
they're pretty chill. They're not like super tall, but you have to watch out. If they go back on their tail, then they kick out with their legs, and that's like they like stand on their tail and kick out with their legs, and that's like real vicious.
Whoa. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's cool, hey? Yeah, they
Yeah.
like go back. Like imagine that. Imagine having a little
That's
thing to go back on, and then you just kick at a motherfucker.
just at the bar, just pissed. And you just
Yeah.
start ringing them out.
Yeah,
So
it's
in
savage.
college, you were saying you were in the bar scene more, networking, getting out there. Did you start doing open mics or like when did comedy pick up for you?
Yeah, I started doing comedy when I was 20. I'm 30 now.
Okay.
So I do in school I played piano and I thought I was going to be a musician. And I went to audition for the conservatory in Adelaide for like classical piano, but I'd been to schoolies the week before and I was still, kind of cooked from that. And I didn't learn the Bach piece that I needed to learn. So I flunked the audition. And then I just kind of lost like my track with piano and spent a few years like I dropped out of uni. I worked in a nightclub for like 18 months and like did a bunch of drugs, and all my friends were like those people, just dealers and DJs and stuff.
Yep, the
And
people running the
then
circuit.
yeah, we were just all running around just fucking blowing all our money. I would
What was the
work like just
craziest substance you did during that time?
I smoked a little bit of
PCP,
meth.
ketamine.
I smoked a little bit of meth for like
Jeez, hell yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
a
How was
handful of
that?
times. Um, I got fired from a job once for staying up for 4 days and then showing up to
No
the job.
shit.
I was looking at the clock on my phone and it said 7 and I was like, I think maybe I'd set the clock to AM instead of PM, but whatever. I showed up at 7 in the morning instead of 7 at night because I just had no concept of what time it was. And then I like knocked on the door and I was like, there's no one in the pub. Like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to go to work? And then I realized like it was morning. So yeah, that was probably, I got pretty I was pretty fucked for a few years there. But
Hell yeah.
then Bill Hicks?
I maybe. That
He's
sounds a
like
little bit familiar.
American comic. He died in like 94. I think he was 30 something years old. Very
Okay.
young, but just, revered in comedy circles. And I watched a documentary about his life. It's called American, the Bill Hicks story.
I'll have
Um
to check that
and-
out.
oh dude, it's amazing. I mean, and he was big on like hallucinogenics and like opening
Hell
your mind
yes.
like that, which as a 20-year-old dude, I was like, fuck yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
man. And
I need to seek more.
yeah, my third eye, dude. And so he started when he was 14. He started doing open mics, and I was 20 when I watched that. So I was like, fuck, all right. If a kid of 14 can go do stand up, I reckon I'm allowed to go do stand up. And I just like found an open mic in my city and started like a couple weeks later.
Wow. And talk me through like those first experiences. Like, are you nervous? What is your stand-up material like? Is it like, do you remember one of your first jokes? Was it
Yeah, I
shit or was it
do.
good?
I remember one because someone complimented me on this joke, and this was one of my only jokes for a few years. Like I was so bad, man. I was horrific. I was really, really bad. But this one was rat's tails, like the haircut,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
rat's tail.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say when I see someone who has a rat's tail, makes me feel like they're trying to say to me, see how long I've been growing this rat's tail. That's how long I've been a dickhead. It's all right.
That's
It's
not
all right.
bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
That's
it,
like
it's a it's
I
a
would
bit of
hear
a
that
non
on Kill
sequitur.
Tony. Do you listen to Kill Tony?
Yeah. I know Kill Tony.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that it's a bit of a non sequitur, isn't it? It's just like, why is this kid, wearing ripped jeans and now he's talking about rat's tails with no context? Like he doesn't have
Yeah.
a rat's tail. He's not telling a story about rat's tails. He's just, hey, rat's tails? I've got a joke about them.
So that's pretty cool too, the way you're describing like how you positioned that joke and like in the satirical sense of with how you're presenting it, who you are and understanding that and how you deliver it, that plays into it. Could you maybe describe a little more of like your creative style as a comedian or like your thought process as a comedian? How does that work for you, both with writing jokes and also performing on the stage?
Well, I mean, I guess in the context of that joke, that's a fucking lot of questions.
I'm curious. I want to dissect your style. It's so
Yeah, like
fascinating.
tell me everything about your approach in stand up.
Yeah, right.
um, I guess with that joke, what I like, why I kind of think it's so funny now to think about that joke is that, yeah, it was just coming out of nowhere. And I think in stand up, you need to have, it's like a conversation, right? I wouldn't just walk up to a person I've never met and go, hey, rat's tails? They'd be like, what? What are you talking
Mhm.
about? Why are you saying that to me? So it's kind of like you got to say hello. You got to, like give a little bit of context for who you are or like why you're talking. And I try and do that when I do stand up. I try and imagine it as like a conversation, which I know a lot of people talk about the conversational style. But then if you watch a lot of stand up, still there are people that, part of the way they get laughs is kind of the absurdity of like talking about this thing or that thing, or they just kind of go, they get really hard up against like going from one topic to another topic with no links. And that's fine. That's one way to do it. But I like my stand up to feel like a conversation and to feel like, I'm just talking to you. I like people even to not know, like if I do my own show, I like people to not realize that the show has kind of started and they're just laughing, but they think, I started off making it up. And then at some point I went into my material and they kind of couldn't tell when I switched. I like that. Um, Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. Yeah, it does because it's how you're thinking about it, and that's literally what I wanted to get to was how do you
Yeah,
process it to that's so cool. So do you write a lot? Do you sit down deliberately and write? Do you just sort of
yeah.
come up with jokes like while you're out and about, or like how you doing that with yourself getting through
I
it?
sit down. The way that I come up with things that I want to talk about is I just have conversations with my friends and whoever in my life. And if I notice myself saying something a few times in the week, I'm like, all right, that's a good story, clearly, because I'm trying to tell it to a lot of people. So I
Mm,
should say that on stage. And then I'll sit down and I'll try and write some jokes to do with the story, and or like if I'll go on stage that night and just tell the story how I told it to my friend or something like that. I'm trying to get more comfortable writing from the stage. Like I'll write jokes on the page and sometimes they're good. Um, but oftentimes I'll write the joke on the page, go on stage, and it doesn't work, but something else will happen that works. Or, I think for me, writing is not so much like I do sit with my book open every day, but the writing process isn't so much like, thinking of the idea and writing it down. It's just taking the time to think about comedy and my process and make sure that, like to reflect on it. Like if you don't do
yeah.
that in the day, then by the time you get on stage, you're just saying what you said last night. So you got to take a bit of time to reflect on what you did last night and try and think about how you're going to approach it differently tonight. That's writing.
I really like that. Yeah, no, it's really interesting too how intentional, like, and how much it's about like being present and becoming very, very present. And when you start to do that, you
Yeah,
can start to like
100%.
advance and elevate your art. Huh, cool. How would you describe well, I guess what would you describe as the role of comedy in society today?
Oh, I think people sometimes take comedy a little too seriously, hey? Like it should be. I mean, you can say things that hurt. You know what? I actually had this conversation with my housemate a few days ago. He's a gay man,
Mm.
and he talks about the way that, like Chappelle, for example, and I love Chappelle. Dave Chappelle.
Of course, love
Sorry, I don't
David
want to
Chappelle.
assume.
Yeah, no, no,
Yeah,
no, you're
yeah.
good.
So
A lot of my favorite comedians here. I'll just list them off for you so you know what the
yeah,
headspace of
sure.
comedy I run around. I love Kill Tony, so Tony Hinchcliffe, love Joe
Yeah.
Rogan, Tom Segura,
Uh-huh.
Bert Kreischer,
Yeah.
Anthony Jeselnik. Um,
Sure.
that's sort of Hans Kim. I've been a big fan of recently of younger guys.
Yeah, okay. I love Bill Burr. Bill Burr's my favorite comic.
Bill Burr.
Um,
Okay, Bill Burr's amazing too. Yeah.
yeah. And then Chappelle, not so much Rogan. The podcast is okay when he has good guests. I don't love his stand up, although there was one bit on an album years ago, but whatever. Yeah.
I hear you.
But then I like, I love Stanhope. I like Stuart Lee. I don't know if you know Stuart Lee. He's a British guy.
I'll have to check him
Um,
out.
I I love Patrice. I love all those New York guys, Patrice and whatever. And
Yep.
then but I always loved, and this affects the way that I think about comedy. I always loved the kind of comedy that it feels robust. It feels like you could stand in the corner of a pub and just get everyone's attention and say that stuff. And I don't so much want to be the kind of comic that it's like theatrical, you have to be like, shush, 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 everyone, shush. Okay, we're going to do it now. Like, shut up, shut up. Like, I don't like that. You should just be able to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Which I think plays into why I like the kind of conversational style. I'm sorry, I forgot what the fucking question was going to be though.
No, 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 no. That was a perfect circle we were running around. Yeah, I know. I jumped off of it when we were talking about comedic inspirations.
Yeah, yeah.
What for you? How was running the scene? How is the
Oh,
Aussie scene for comedy?
it's great, man. I do. I guess it's just easy to think about it in number of gigs. There's not as many gigs as I get really jealous of like New York comics, man. I would love to live in New York. I lived in London for a couple years. They got a great scene there, but I'm sure it's got still got nothing on New York. But in Melbourne, you can do like 10 gigs a week. There's a lot of bar shows. Some of the bar shows are really good. Some of them are open mics and there's like sign-ups and stuff. You're mostly doing 5 to 10 minutes at those shows. And then like in Australia, like I do my kind of year consists of Perth Fringe in January, Adelaide Fringe in Feb, and then Melbourne Comedy Festival is like March, April. All up, that's probably 8 weeks of me doing my solo show 5-6 nights a week, which is an hour. And then outside of that, there's like Brisbane's got a good club, Perth has a good club outside of the festival, Sydney's got a few good clubs, Melbourne's got some clubs. So yeah, that's normally like, to do all of those, that's probably like 6 months of work for me for the year. And then pre-COVID, I was like, there's like some touring you can do in Asia. I'll do the Edinburgh Fringe. I'll do some clubs in the UK and through Europe and stuff like that. So yeah, the scene in Australia is really good, man. The comics are really good. I guess we get a little bit, talking to someone from America, I want to be like, it's fucking as good, but no one's on the level of like a Burr or a Chappelle. Sure. But
who is your?
But there's
you guys really don't have like a top star comedian, like someone that's like sells out #1 all stadiums.
Oh, we do, but you guys wouldn't know him. There's a dude. Fuck, I just forgot his name. God damn it, that's really bad. I'm fucking gonna have to look him up. There's Jim Owen, and there's, oh my god, if I look up Australia comedian, Carl Barron. Fuck, how did I forget Carl Barron? Every person, if you talk to any Australian in like a town, do you like comedy? The dudes will be like, yeah, man, fucking Carl Barron. Carl Barron's so funny. And he's kind of an anomaly because he's not on the circuit. I've never met him. I don't know anyone who's worked with him, but he sells out the biggest venues, and he's been huge for like 20 years. He's huge, and he's a master. Like he is, but it's just very relatable, everyman kind of stuff. He'll talk about fucking, I don't know, just observational things. He'll talk about your fucking bed, he'll talk about blowing boogers out of your nose. He'll talk about going to work, whatever.
Sure. Do you find that the clubs, like as you're touring internationally, is there a difference in the rooms you're playing for? Like, are there certain rooms per se? I don't want to ask this in a weird way. Are there certain rooms that are like more woke? Are there certain rooms that are softer? Certain rooms that are more harder? Like how does that dynamic play as you travel?
There's definitely cities that are, and certain little pockets of scenes. So in Melbourne, I don't know how much you know about the socio-political layout of Australia.
I know Melbourne a lot about what's going on currently with COVID in Australia, but other than that, I don't know much about the political climate there.
So Melbourne is the kind of more European city in Australia. And Sydney is a bit more, not quite American, but it's kind of like a fast paced, go. The rents are high.
So and it's just like world work hard there, like economic boom area.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas Melbourne is like the arts and sporting kind of center. And it's known,
sounds like Melbourne's that's where to visit on vacation then.
Oh, dude, I would say Sydney is beautiful. Sydney visually is incredible because it's on the harbor, it's hilly. You walk along the coast and it just looks incredible, and you got all of the landmarks and stuff. Melbourne is a very flat landscape, so it's not as visually beautiful. But in terms of places to go, man, the nightlife, the fucking art scene, cafes, all of that. It's not just because I'm from Melbourne, but Melbourne is the fucking shit for sure.
That's
really... And so, but because Melbourne's quite left leaning as well of all the cities in Australia, which is why we're going through this lockdown right now, because it's a bit more of like, not socialist, but like protect people, shut the city down to protect the people who can't protect themselves. And then the crowds in Melbourne tend to be a little bit more like that. Whereas in Sydney, I guess the stereotype is that it's a little bit more hard hitting. I tend to think that gets overplayed though. Melbourne comedians definitely still have punchy jokes and all that kind of stuff. But in Melbourne, crowds will give you a bit more time.
I hear what you're saying. That's really unique. That's really unique. How was it when you were in the UK?
Yeah, good. Well, in London, completely different. In London, they don't care. In Melbourne, they want to like you, especially in Melbourne. A little bit in Sydney too. In London, they don't care. They just want the joke. What's the joke? They're like, we don't care who you are. In Melbourne, you can go on and be like, hey, what's up? And like, just fucking be like, hey, I'm here. Um, but in London, if you do that, people are like, "Come on, mate, fuck, let's go."
Yeah, they're like, if I've wasted my fucking money, bro.
Yeah. So that
Damn.
can be a little bit of a shift sometimes to just, when I go back there, the first show, I'm just like, all right, I got to come out hard or else they're going to fucking, yeah.
Is there an adrenaline and a dopamine rush that comes with the art of comedy and performing? I've performed like as a musician on stage, and I've
Oh,
felt that
cool.
before. But is there
Yeah.
something like that for comedy too? Like, talk me through maybe some of the chemical releases you're feeling.
Oh, I don't know about. Imagine if I was like, yeah, whenever I get on stage, I get a boner. I don't know
Yeah,
what the.
just a long lasting erection. Just
Yeah, no, I'm not sure, man. I don't know about chemicals and stuff, but you know what I've noticed in therapy recently, I've been talking about anxiety, and my immediate response with anxiety is I get tired. And I've always kind of known that because before big gigs, I often get really tired. I like will fall asleep, or not fall asleep, but just like lie down backstage on a couch or whatever. Um, so yeah, there is an anxiety. My favorite moment in stand up is when they call your name and then you walk onto stage, because from that moment it's like, this is now all up to me. As soon as they call your name, anxiety gone.
now, while you're on stage, are you walking through in your head? Are you playing through your set layout that you've played for yourself, or are you so in the moment that like the rest of it sort of goes out the window, and then like everything you had rehearsed or planned in your head just comes to fruition?
Oh man, I would love to get to that point. I'd love to get to
Mm.
that point where I'm just so in the moment. Um, yeah, I try and go on and say the first thing that comes into my head, just to like, so that I'm not, like reciting the fucking stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you find it with music? Do you go on and like, do you feel like you're just in the moment there, or do you lean back a little bit on the stuff you planned?
I definitely like it with jazz. I lean back on the stuff I planned, and the only time I really ever feel like I'm fully in the moment is when I'm soloing, because that's when I finally close
Yeah.
my eyes and I go away from the prepared material.
Man, I watched this video. I gotta find there's this guy on YouTube talking about what instrument do you play? I know your listeners probably know
Saxophone.
all this. Oh, fuck yeah, tenor, alto.
Yeah, tenor is my preferred saxophone.
That's
I mean, you could
sick,
sort of
man.
do them all once you learn how to read different keys, but
Sure. Is it just a little bit higher, a little bit lower?
exactly, a little different air, how much air it takes to play them,
I
and
c-
embouchure. But
Sorry, what was that?
no,
You
it's
just
just
cut out
a
a little bit there.
embouchure technique. Yeah, sorry about that. The Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know about embouchure. I played trumpet for a little bit.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
I can't find the guy's name, but there's a guy. He's a pianist. He's got a YouTube channel and he breaks down popular songs. I guess he's got an amazing ear because he can hear all the chord extensions and just fucking play them straight up, which is
Oh,
incredible.
he's got pitch.
Yeah, and it's like a really good like.
Mm.
Dude, he'll just listen to. He broke down like a new Bruno Mars song, and he was like, "Oh, I love this
Is this
11, this
Jacob
major 11."
Collier? Are you talking about Jacob Collier?
No, no, it's not. Fuck. I'll fucking find it
Yeah,
and you can put
yeah,
it in the show
okay.
notes or something because he's really good, man. Yeah, he's just like, oh, I love this. I love this major 11 chord, this sus 11 chord or whatever. And it's like,
Yep.
how did you pick that straight away like that? But he had a video that I watched yesterday and it was about soloing. And he was like, there's three levels of soloing. The first level is when you have the chord progression and the melody set for you, and you're just voicing the chords. This is for piano, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just voicing the chords however you want.
Mm-hmm.
Second level is when you have the chord progression, but no set melody. So you're making up the melody and just playing the progression. And then the third level is when there's no set chord progression, no melody, nothing, and you're just making it up however you want. And he said on that third level of improvising, it can be helpful to just let your hands land on the keyboard however the fuck, and like play bad on purpose, and then use your own musical knowledge and what you know about where things might go to let that lead you in some direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then he did a bit and it was amazing. He was just like, I'm going to try and do some of that right now, and it was so fucking cool. And the main thing that he said was like, don't be afraid of the thing that you play sounding bad or thinking that it's going to sound bad, because that's a part of it. It needs to sound bad to break out of your establish patterns and get to a place that's new.
Mm,
Um,
that is
yeah,
fascinating. I get what he's saying. You have to, it's just neuro remapping, but I've never thought about it that way. Whoa, that's really cool. Heck,
yeah,
like, and I
man.
think it's so applicable too to even like your comedy thing. Like bad sets, I'm sure have happened, but that's
Of
what allows
course.
you to get better.
Yeah, I just remembered his name, James Cornell.
James Cornell. James Cornell.
Yeah,
I will check him out.
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely, man. The bad sets. I mean, it's like you learn more from failing than you do from succeeding, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
at the time, you don't realize that it's going to be bad. It's not like I'm trying to be bad on purpose. I don't have the fucking balls to do that. But but it's definitely, yeah, something happens that's bad, and then you fucking, it hurts so much that you spend a lot
Mm.
of time reflecting on it, and then you end up learning a lot. Yeah.
What was one of the toughest moments of adversity you faced in your younger years? I'm saying before you're 25. Would you, for yourself, would you say?
Before, okay. So like maybe in stand up or not necessarily in stand up.
Yeah, not necessarily in stand up,
Um
just in your life.
I got arrested 12 days before my 18th birthday
No
for
way.
smashing a tram stop with a hammer. Um
Wait, they arrested you for that?
yeah, it was vandalism, right? It's like I had a hammer in my bag and I smashed all of the glass on like a,
Mm.
like a, the little like shelter where you sit and wait for the
I see
tram.
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. That, I thought you just sort of beat like a metal sign in with it. I was like,
Oh yeah, yeah, no, like I smashed like $1,100 worth of glass
oh,
with a hammer. I was a pretty
man.
angry man. I was a really fucking angry
Mm.
kid. I
What
think
do you
like
think that
maybe,
was? Like what were you working through, do you think?
yeah, it might have been like I talk about in my most recent show that I'm about to record. If anyone wants to fucking watch it, it should be out in
Hey,
like January on YouTube. It's
we will.
called Taco, and it's the story of my meeting my biological father for the first time.
Whoa.
And
I want to hear a little bit about this experience if we could talk about
yeah, and I talk in the show about, so my nickname is Taco growing up
it. Okay.
from like 15, because the first girl I ever kissed thought I looked Mexican, right? And that's true. And she was like, Taco, and I wanted to kiss her. So I was like, yeah, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, And I uh I I introduced myself as that for a long time because it was easier than having a conversation with everyone I met about how I never met my dad. And I
Mm.
don't think I knew it even at the time, but there was a lot of pain. There still is like some pain around, this guy who was supposed to be my father abandoned me when I was like, never met me. And so maybe that, but I can't say that my dad and my mum weren't like great parents and very loving,
Right.
and I got a good family. Never
I
really
completely get
wanted.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like, yeah, it's like same thing here. Like my parents did the best they could. It's like the way that our psyches go through our personal experiences may not have anything to do with it, potentially what they were trying to imply on us. It's just exactly how we experienced it. That's, that's
Yeah.
really fascinating and it's really powerful too. And thank you for sharing that you've even been able to work through that in your head because that shows like a much more mature and strong individual, like someone who can like analyze, look at their life and like understand where things are stemming from. And
Yeah.
that's
That's
so
me,
brilliant.
bro. Mature and strong. That's me, man.
In a way. But I think too, that's the thing too, is like I talked to some dude who was like in his 70s, and he was like, the one thing that I recognize the older I get is I feel younger each day. Like I feel
Uh-huh.
more and more like a kid the older I get. And like there's something about that like the comedic spirit in you has that no matter how old you're getting. Like there's a part of you that like recognizes that the ability to laugh and to express that emotion can be so powerful and profound.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, that's cool that you spoke to a guy who was 70. That must have been some really fucking, I would love to get that guy's opinion on, the shit that I'm going through now as a 30-year-old, right? And
Mm,
just see whether that guy would take that kind of stuff seriously, or whether he'd be like, dude, don't fucking worry about that, Like, are our
seriously.
problems the same as the people who are like that much older who have been here for so much longer? Or are they just like, dude, don't fucking worry at all?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's fascinating you say that. Like even for me in my 20s now, I'm seeing my priorities are shifting as to what I want for myself. Like, have you noticed in your 30s the priorities that you set or the goals that you thought you might have had in your 20s have shifted?
Um, I reckon a couple years ago I had a pretty big shift in myself from like I spent most of my 20s from starting stand up and then like moving to London, living there for 2 years, just like going so hard after stand up and like being broke, and then coming back to Melbourne, but still traveling a lot and trying to live this life of like a jet set,
Mhm.
fucking touring or whatever. Couple years ago, very luckily, just before COVID, like kind of October 2019,
Mm.
I had this feeling where I was like, man, I've been away, like I've not been in the same place for 6 months for like years, and just being like, what am I running from, and like realizing like, okay, what are the things I actually want in my life? I want to be a stand-up comedian. I want to be in a relationship, and I want to eventually have a family. And I'm a stand-up comedian, and that's something that's never going to go away. But those other things, I've been in like all these little relationships, but not really committing. And every time I would meet someone who I liked, I was always going somewhere else already. And I kind of was like, you know what? Why don't I just stop trying to jump around to all these different places and try and land in one place and be in that place and commit to it? And that's, I mean, I've kind of always known that that's Melbourne, like this is my city. And so I kind of made a conscious decision to like decide to live in Melbourne, still tour, but when I tour, I'm just going away to do the shows and then coming back. I'm not going away to do the shows and then stay away for months. I'm just doing the shows for work and I'm coming back home. And yeah, very lucky that I had that kind of mental shift, because then a few months later, COVID hit and then we're all in lockdown. And it's like, well, you fucking got to stay home now, idiot.
Yeah, literally. It's like
Yeah.
if COVID was like at least here stateside, it was like if you were holding shit in or you had shit to work on, it's like now is the time to work on it. For some
Yeah,
people, it made
totally.
them stronger. For others, it made them break, like
Yeah,
COVID.
man.
But
Yeah.
how was it over there for you? I've been wanting to talk about that topic. Like
Oh man.
how okay, what is locals' perception of guidelines that the government is implementing there? And is there multiple sides to it? Is everyone cool with it? How do you
Mm,
feel about it? How was COVID when it started versus how is it now? Everything.
yeah. How it started versus how it's going now. um, Man, like what I've learned
Mm.
during this is there are some things that you can't change, and it's pointless trying to like just get angry or spend time stewing on those things. Um, it's best to focus on the shit that you can control. So, like, I can't control these restrictions, and I happen to believe that the restrictions are the right thing to do. I think it's good to try and protect people who can't protect themselves, to try and stop the health system from being overwhelmed. But it's still upsetting. I can't do comedy. And this is something that I've done, pretty much every night for the last 10 years, and I can't fucking do it.
Wow.
It's very frustrating. But
Wow.
I could sit here and be angry about it and go, it's not
Mm.
fair. Why is this happening to me? And I did that for a lot of last year. But this year I'm like, well, I can't change that, but I can change how I react, and I can take responsibility for my choices.
Smart.
So I've been doing stuff like I set up my desk in my driveway with a sign that says comedian giving out free jokes. People walk by, I tell them jokes. Lately, as our vaccination rates rise towards 70%, we're allowed to have 5 fully vaccinated people in the park for a picnic. So I put on Instagram, who wants to come to the park and I'll do my show for you, because I'm recording my show in a month. So I'm like, let me get some practice in. And in the last week, I've done my show 4 times to fucking groups of 4 people in the park.
Wow.
Um, just trying to find little way. And look, also, there are rules, right? Like the rules at the
Mm.
moment are there's a curfew from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. You're not allowed to
Okay,
leave your
yeah,
house during those
maybe yeah.
times.
Could you explain all of the rules to me too? Because
Yeah,
I've
okay.
seen I've seen a couple of videos. Like, is it accurate that if you test positive or someone in your household tests positive, they come and they take all of your people and put you into one of the quarantine facilities?
Nah,
Is that
that's not it.
accurate or inaccurate?
Nah, that's not it. It's if you test positive or someone in your house tests positive,
Okay.
then you got to stay in your house. I believe you have to stay in your house. Maybe
Okay.
you got to go to hotel. No, I wouldn't have thought you go to hotel quarantine. I think you just got to stay in your house for 14 days. Also, if you're a contact, like so a month or so ago, I just moved house, but my old housemate, he went to a bakery and then someone at that bakery who was working there tested positive. So he was a primary contact, which meant me and him had to stay in the house for 14 days from the date of contact. And you're not allowed to leave your house for anything. That's like, yeah.
And how do they know that you don't leave your house during that? Like, did you not leave
Well,
your
I
house at
guess
all
they
during
just,
that?
yeah, I guess they just hope that you don't, and you just should. Most people abide by that kind of stuff. The vast
Yeah.
majority of people are like, yeah. But we found out a few days into it that the bakery got downgraded to a tier 2 exposure site. So tier 1 is like the person tested positive, and then tier 2, I don't know why, but it's hard to keep up with everything, but it got downgraded to tier 2, which means you just have to isolate until you get a negative test. So we didn't have to do the full 14 days. We ended up, we were isolating for like 4 days, and then it was all sweet.
So when you aren't isolating, what is it like when you go out and about? Is it like, do you have to wear masks even outdoors?
Yeah, you got to wear masks. I got my mask. You got to wear masks outdoors at all times.
Okay.
No venues are open for seated like dining or whatever. So like it's all takeaway, only takeaway stuff.
Are the restaurants like businesses are surviving? Is the government helping? What's that?
There's a lot of help from the government. There's a lot of the government's been really good with giving money. So like businesses get X amount of money per week and staff get money. If you've been laid off, you get paid to go get a test. So like if you're told to go get a test, if you're told to go get a test because you've been like a contact somewhere, you get a $450 payment from the government for that. And you can get one of those
$450 just to go get tested.
Yeah. And you can get one of those a month. So like, yeah.
What?
So shit like that's pretty
cool.
good. There's a lot of help from the government. Yeah, basically if you had a job before, you're getting money from the government, which is chill. But here's what I was going to say with the restrictions and everything is, especially in this lockdown, which has been going for like 3 months now.
Yeah.
People are a lot more lax about it. And it's just about like some people are going to the city and protesting, right? And I think, sure, but you could also, if you don't like the rules,
are they protesting the lockdown or specific other things?
Yeah, no, they're protesting the lockdown, or sometimes they're protesting like people in the construction industry have to get vaccinated. That's like a government mandated thing. You have to get vaccinated. They're protesting that. But like one of the other rules is you're not allowed to have anyone come to your house, because that's the main place where it spreads, is in households. So you're not allowed to do that. But I just do it. People just do it. You just make, there's rules and you just make decisions, you go, just because there's a rule doesn't mean that I don't have choices. And I agree with the rules. And I think that these rules are in place for a reason. And a lot of them, I think it's founded on science and it's all correct. But I just want to go to my friend's house. So I've made a decision to go, I want to go to my friend's house. And if I get caught, I'll pay the fine. But I'm not going to get caught.
Is it egregious?
Oh, it's a big fine. It's like $5,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a big fine.
Wait, wait, hold on. I want to do the little math. How many times would I have to go get their vex to go test negative?
Yeah, it'd be like 11.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting to hear. So like, are there like, how is it like going to a grocery store and stuff? Is there like scheduled times that you have to go to a grocery store? Is it still fair game to go whenever?
You can go. Oh, actually, this is how much I'm not worrying about the rules at the moment, because there's another rule that you're only allowed to leave your house for 4 hours every day for exercise or for medical.
Are they tracking all this through an app or anything?
No, these are the rules. And then you just, it's like abide by the rules.
Yeah, it's like the speed limit. It's there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you're just like, well, am I going to do that? No. So I'm going out and I'm hanging out with friends all the time. Just don't be a fuckhead about it. That's
Yeah.
why it's so crazy when people go protest. And it's like, you realize instead of going and protesting, you could have just
Gone
done
and
what you
done it.
wanted to do.
And
But
that
it
would have
feels
been a
like some
protest in
people,
itself, kind of.
it feels like some people just want something to get angry at, you know?
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's that's really fascinating. That's makes much more sense. That's good to get to hear. Is there
Yeah.
which vaccine is the one that's most predominant? Is it Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson? What do you guys have over there? Do you have a separate
We don't have the Johnson. We got Pfizer and AstraZeneca, and then
AstraZeneca?
we just got Moderna recently. I think people are starting to get Moderna. I got Pfizer. There was another big thing that the government kind of fucked up is the AstraZeneca. There was that very rare blood clot. It's like one in fucking millions get a blood clot that you can possibly
That
die
was similar
from.
to the Johnson and Johnson one too.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, that's the and rather than letting people know, look, it's safe, the government kind of freaked out a little bit. And so everyone didn't want to get it. So that's why it's been such a long time us opening up, because the government fucked up the supplies last year. They could have had meetings with Pfizer, but they were kind of dicks to Pfizer. They were like, oh, we'll see. And then everyone else got the vaccines, like all the other countries, and
Right,
we
and
were
then they
still
had to
waiting.
wait. Yeah.
And they kind of put all their eggs in the AstraZeneca basket. And then they found out that there was this weird side effect with AstraZeneca, and people were like, well, I don't want that one. So, like, I think in Victoria at the moment, we're on like maybe 80% of people have had their first dose, and like 60% have had 2 doses. And it's been rising really quickly the last few weeks. Once we get to 70% double dose, the lockdown will lift, which is in like 2.5 weeks at this point.
Okay. What was this thing I was seeing about camps being built, like quarantine facilities? What is that?
Oh, they want to build quarantine facilities for incoming travelers. I don't know how useful that's going to be now, man. Like I guess that's good. I guess it's a kind of cool thing to have if this kind of thing happens again. But for fucking COVID, it's like everyone's just gonna have it at some point. It's gonna be in the community, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna have to fucking move. Like I got friends in the UK who, they've had COVID. They've people fucking get it, but you're vaccinated, and it's just chill.
Yep.
We can't keep the genie in the bottle forever. At some point, you just got to let it out and know that it's going to be out there.
It's going to be like the common flu, That's happening the year before this too, And we just get through it anyways.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, like it's a bit more intense than the common flu, but also as it mutates,
True.
it loses how strong it is, Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
so what is your guys's like trajectory before you're back open, or like when do you think you'll be doing live comedy again?
2.5 weeks. It should be October 26th.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. October 26th. As soon as we reopen, it's like if you're fully vaccinated, you can do a bunch of stuff. There's just density limits. And then when we get to 80%, which is like a couple weeks after that, it really opens up again. And that's when I'm shooting my special, 12th of November. So
are you working?
Yeah, I'm fucking hyped.
You're doing it independently, fully?
No, yeah, there's a studio in Melbourne called Stupid Old Studios, and they film a lot of comedy. They're kind of in the community. They've filmed a few other guys' specials who I know, and yeah, so I've never done this before. This is my first time filming anything.
Congrats!
It was
bro.
$5.5 grand out of my own money, and it's fucking happy. It's in a studio. There'll be a small, it's like 50 people in the audience.
Okay.
And it'll be an album and like audio. Album and video as well.
And so, is this going to go? What platforms are you going to distribute through?
I'll chuck it up on YouTube, and I'll chuck it on. I'll put it on Spotify as well.
Perfect. I'm so stoked for you, man. How long are you doing it? How long of a special?
It'll be an hour. Yeah. Or 50 minutes. Yeah.
What's the name of it? Is the name of it Taco, right? You said, or something?
Yeah. It's Taco. Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I've been watching a lot of like, do you know Mark Normand?
Yes, I do know Mark Normand.
Yeah, like Mark, like Park Norman, those videos he was
Mm,
doing when lockdown was on in New York. And then Sam Morril did this fucking Rooftop special recently,
that's
and
pretty
he did a
badass.
documentary about New York's clubs opening back up, which was sick. Um, and I really loved on his Rooftop special, there's a lot of drone footage, so you can see the New York
Mm,
skyline and it's flying around, and then it kind of comes in and he's like on the rooftop telling jokes. There's also
mm,
another guy called Rory Scovel who did a special. He did 5 nights fully improvised at this weird theater in Atlanta that the
whoa.
guy basically stole an abandoned building from, like, it was just abandoned, and he built a theater inside it and started running shows. And Rory Scovel did like a special of fully improvised sets in there. I just been watching. There's a lot of. It feels like there's a lot of comics
So
lately,
badass.
and they're putting out stuff that it's like it's the show, but it's also there's like an autobiographical element to it, or like an element of like telling the story of making the thing, or just their process as an artist. And I really like that. So I've been working with a videographer to try and put out some videos in that kind of, like I did a video of me doing jokes in my driveway. I did another one that we're working on at the moment of I took my desk to the park and set up, the comedian telling jokes, but I was in the park, which is like packed full of people at the moment. And I was expecting people to come up and ask for jokes, but it's a different environment in the park. There's a lot of people around. Maybe people were nervous. So instead of normal people coming up, I just got kids. Just kids were coming up to me asking for and
Oh yeah.
I'm not a kids comedian. So
You're
the
like,
video is me trying to fucking deal with that, which was kind of fun. Um, and then on Saturday I did 2 shows in the park of my hour, and we filmed that as well. So yeah, we're trying to come out with some other videos. There's the special, but then there's also this other stuff that's just like
yeah,
me trying to
you're
figure
really
out how to
blowing
do
up your
this.
content stream. I like it.
Yeah, well, yeah, trying.
Yeah, building the brand. I like that. So would you say your following
Yeah.
currently is heavily in Australia and then breaches into other markets?
Yeah, no, my following at the moment is mostly around the festivals that I do.
Sweet.
Perth Fringe, Adelaide Fringe, Melbourne Comedy Festival, Edinburgh Fringe, a little bit of like people in Europe and stuff, but it's still
Have you gotten
in
out
the
to
early
America
start. I've
yet?
only just, no, I've never been to America. I would love to go to America.
Fuck, you have to come out here and do the
Yeah.
comedy scene.
Yeah, man. I would fucking love to be in like to go to New York, man. It's like a dream. And I guess I've never really put some serious effort into doing it. I
Mm.
moved to London when I was 23, and I realized when I got there that I actually just wanted to move to New York. Do you know what I mean?
You're like, maybe this will be a fever dream of New York.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And London is like its own thing, and it's like an amazing city in
Mm.
its own right. But it's just, I was walking around London and like, I was like, why aren't these buildings tall like I imagined they would be, you know?
What was life like there? What did you get up to in London? Anything interesting happen?
uh, yeah, man. I wrote a show about. I lived with a guy in London who was a con man. So I lived in this
Mm.
flat. He moved in, and then he started working for the agency who let the flat. And he told everyone who moved in that he was the owner, and he told the agency that no one lived there. So he just got all of the money from that. And I wrote a blog about him every week in secret, put it on Facebook. And then I was working at a cafe, and I would like give the blog out to people coming into the cafe, and I would do shows and just like give the audience, things. So people were reading it. And and then around Christmas time, the guy got arrested and like disappeared, and he stole like £1,000 off of this fucking one chick and just kind of
Shit.
fled.
Did he ever rob
So
you?
no, he never did. It was just weird. I'll send you the blog if you want to know the full story. But
Yeah.
it was like I knew what he was doing, and he was kind of charismatic. So I was like, oh, it's okay. Like he's not stealing from them. He's just stealing from the agency. So I kind of let it slide. But
Mm.
I probably should have said something. But I was like, too caught up in my own life to be like getting involved with that. So I just wrote a blog instead.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just gonna observe this and take
Yeah.
it.
I was just like doing some fly on the wall shit.
Did the
But
did the
then it got
blog
really
go well?
hectic.
Did it hit well?
Yeah, I got like a lot of people. I think the first few got like 1,000 like people reading it. So it was all right. It was exciting at the
Okay.
time. And then I wrote a stand-up show about it. And that was my first show that I toured around in 2017.
Okay, hell yeah. Your first show in 2017.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go
Yeah. I did like
back.
the Edinburgh Fringe and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and what is your
Yeah.
favorite festival of those? You were talking about the Melbourne one, the Edinburgh Fringe, some of those
Yeah.
other ones.
Edinburgh's the best. Edinburgh's the
Edinburgh.
best. Edinburgh's incredible. It's amazing. If I think everyone should go there one time in their life. It's just the most incredible thing. It's a city. Edinburgh is a city of like 1 million people, and then during the festival, another 1 million people come to the city.
Holy
There's
cow.
3,000 shows. So, like, to put it in perspective, Edinburgh's the biggest comedy festival in the world. The second
I
is
had no idea.
Montreal, and the third is Melbourne. And in Melbourne, I think in 2019 there were 600 shows. In Edinburgh there were 3,000. Like that's how much bigger.
Holy
Yeah,
cow. Yeah, that's a way bigger
it's
scene.
huge, man. Yeah, it's insane.
No wonder. Yeah, you're in a prime spot to be doing comedy then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Melbourne's a great place to do comedy.
I wanted to ask about your father and that situation because we had a commonality. I'm actually half Colombian as well. My father is from
Oh
Barranquilla
wow,
and moved
man, that's
here.
sick.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
where do
cool.
you know whereabouts in Colombia your family's from?
In Bogota.
Bogota. Yes, very nice, very
Yeah,
nice. So
yeah.
what was your
But
first altercation with him, meeting him, and how was that?
I was living in London. I was 24, and my mum and dad split up when I was 23, and so I was like, maybe we should just find this guy. I want to talk to him and see what he's about.
Sure.
And my mum found him on Facebook through like some of the people who she knew from back then, and she gave me his contact, and I spoke to him, and he's had a pretty wild life. Like he fled Colombia from like violence, and then moved to Germany, and he lives in Austria now. He's got a wife out there. He did a bit of time in jail for like robbing a bank. He made some bad decisions and owed some people money, and ended up robbing a bank, and so did a little bit of time, but late in life, like in his 40s, 50s,
No way.
um, yeah, man. So, but he's not like that kind of guy. Like he's a really sweet. He's not a criminal.
Yeah,
He's just
yeah.
an idiot who made some bad decisions.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, and like he's out now, but he's got a criminal record, so he just fucking puts on shows and like he's a musician, so he just puts on events
Sick.
and stuff for the Colombian community in Vienna in Austria.
Whoa, that's pretty unique. Damn.
Yeah,
And what is your relation, would you say, with like your Colombian heritage and all that?
man, like pretty minimal. I would like it to be more. There is a big Colombian community in Melbourne, but growing up, I joke in the show, there were no Colombians in Adelaide. There's a lot of Greek people. So that's the closest that I had.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
you do we do that tends to happen. Like I get mistaken for Italian a lot.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that's too because a lot of like Colombian people, like the immigration of it is from Spain. And Spaniards are pretty
Right.
light skinned.
Yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're pretty light skinned. Hey, are both your parents from Colombia?
No, my mom is she's German and Polish and Irish. She's
Oh wow. And your dad's
yeah.
Colombian.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
100%
that's cool.
Colombian.
And they were together and like raised you together and all of that.
Yeah, they were together.
Yeah,
They got
cool, man.
divorced when I was fairly young, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
they were both
Yeah,
together. But no,
that's sick,
my
man.
dad, they had to flee from Colombia because of cartel issues, because of violence and such for his
Yeah,
father.
well, yeah, man. I think that's why Fernando, my biological dad, he told me his friend was shot and killed in Colombia, in like the 90s, in the early 90s, and that's why he left.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, literally, it was
Yeah,
happening like crazy, which is like wild.
yeah,
How about on your mom's
yeah,
side?
man.
Do you know your heritage there?
Yeah, very like that. Our family on that side has been in Australia for like over 100 years. I think they came from Cornwall in the UK in like the 1880s, 1890s.
Nice.
And when I was living over there, my mom loves family history, so she's like writing this book of our family history. And we went to some churches and pubs that our family was like connected with 150 years ago. So that
Holy
was pretty
cow.
cool. Yeah,
Damn. And what was
but
like
yeah.
what was the vibe? And did you meet any cool business owners at those pubs or anything?
Yeah, we did. We went to one pub in Cornwall that our family, someone connected to our family owned in like the 1860s. And we went there, and these tiny country pubs, the people who own those, they know all of the history. So my
Wow.
mom was like, "Oh, this person, that person," and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, they owned the pub for like 15 years in fucking whatever." And we were just like, "Oh my god, do we get free dinner? Nah, you still got to pay for dinner." Okay.
You're removed. You're removed.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah,
fascinating.
we went and saw some graves of some people from the family like 150 years ago. So that was cool, man. Very cool.
Wow. What a cool experience. It seems like
Yeah.
you've done a fair bit of traveling, which has been amazing.
Yeah, but a lot of running. I've done a lot of running, man.
A lot of running. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, you did mention that you now feel like you're founding, you've set up and established a home for yourself. What do you define as home? Like, what's your personal
Um,
definition of home?
that's a good question, man. I guess it's somewhere to come back to, isn't it? Somewhere
Mm.
where I'm just like wherever I'm at, that's where I'm going back to. That's kind of where my head and my heart is at. Um, yeah, and just trying to be. I mean, I don't know if you can see my room, but trying to tee up my space to be a little bit more, like somewhere that I'm proud of.
You've got the vibes
Um,
going on. I love all the plants. Are those live
yeah,
plants?
that's yeah, man. I learned a lot about gardening. Yeah, they're real plants. Yeah. I
Good.
learned a lot about gardening in the last lockdown, and I'm trying to. I had a friend. This was a huge moment for me. I had a friend
Okay.
a couple years ago who was my old housemate's girlfriend, right? And we all went out of a night out, and we came home, and it was like 2 a.m, and she's a friend of mine from like long, like from the UK and stuff, so she knows me. And she went into my room and she sat down on the floor and she was just like, "Aidan, come in here, man. Look, sit down with me. Now look around at your room." And at this point, this was kind of when I was making this big decision of like, where am I going to stay? And she was like, "What do you see on the walls?" And I had nothing on my walls. I had no plants. I just had a bed and a dresser and fucking nothing. She was
Mhm.
like, "Dude, if I lived in this room, I would be depressed. Why don't you've done so much traveling, you've been to so many places, you've met so many people, and you live in a fucking this room with just nothing. What are you doing? Like, you put stuff on the walls. You should just put pictures of where you've been or what something just to be like, this is my thing." And it really like affected me, because it's like your room where you sleep, that's a reflection of your inner self and your inner life. And if you don't have a room that is a nice space to be in, what does that say about how you feel about yourself? So
100%. Yeah, wow, that's
yeah.
that's a really valid point. It's crazy once we start to be in tune how much our surroundings and we start to listen to ourselves, how much of being aware can tell us exactly what we're experiencing without us even knowing it.
Yeah, totally.
That was a
Yeah,
very
and just like and just putting work into the space that you live in, and like I like working in the garden as well. It just feels
Mm.
like putting work into yourself. It's like every time I go out into the garden and water my plants, it's like I'm saying to myself, I'm staying here, I'm committing to this place, I'm not trying to get somewhere else, you know I'm not trying to find the next thing that's going to make me happy. This, where I'm at, this is enough for me, and I can be happy with this.
Mm. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, as we get closer to the end, I have a few questions I sort of ask everyone. How would you define love?
Love. Ooh. You know what? When I was in year 9 at school, like 14, in our Christianity and life class,
Mm.
and I was a smart ass kid. I was like, I'm an atheist. Actually, I don't believe in God. Um, just because I wanted to tell everyone how smart I was. And we had a day where our teacher gave us a little thing of like, can you define all of these concepts? And it was like love and family and friendship and whatever. And we went out onto the lawns for a couple hours in the sun and just wrote what we thought those were. And I always thought that was such a cool thing, to get kids to think about what does that actually mean. And I think I wasted it by trying to be a smartass and going, love is defined as when two people are blah, 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 chemical connections or whatever the fuck I said, rather than actually think. But how would I define love? I don't know. Feeling comfortable, maybe someone who feels like home, a person who, when you're around them, you just feel like, you know, um, yeah, comfortable
I
and
like that.
and like able to be yourself. Like you don't need to be anyone else. Like you don't need to change or whatever.
Mm, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. No one said that yet. Something that feels like home or something. I like that. I like that because that does, when you think about that, it does elicit all of the emotions and the feelings that you would want out of love, which I like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Just, yeah. What do people normally say? What kind of stuff do people say?
Everyone's given such varied answers. I don't know. Some people have been like, you can't define love. It's something that's larger than humans. Some people have gone the more route that you were talking about with like, oh, it's a chemical experience in which two,
Yeah. Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things are have. It's but again, I think love is vague. It's too hard to try and overemphasize what love is or try and over explain it, but it's sort of what you said. It's like love is kind of connection, in my opinion, because even when
Hmm.
you're mad at someone, in a regard you're connecting, and in a regard that does stem from love. So I don't know,
Yeah, that's
maybe it's
true.
something from that, something from there. But
That's it, isn't it? Like when you're mad at someone, it's almost like you're just upset that they're not being who you wanted them or hoped them or thought that they might be.
precisely.
Um, which is, I mean, in a way, that's kind of not love because you're not loving them. You're loving the idea that you had of them, but there's some
Mm,
sort of like positive thing behind that.
yeah, yeah. That's unique. Interesting. I wanted to ask too, what do you define as the meaning of life?
Fuck. Man, I think to just fucking try and be happy, have fun. Have fun. That's a good
Mm,
one.
mm.
To try and have fun and follow the things that you enjoy and not fucking do stuff so that you can get something in the future. What a nightmare of a fucking way to live, you know? Yeah. I don't, I just, I've always tried to go towards the things that I like. I like doing comedy, and the moment when they call my name and I walk on stage, that's the best moment in my life. So I want to do that as much as I can, and then be around people that, make me feel good, that I can laugh, do stuff that makes me feel good, that makes me happy. Yeah. I don't know. That sounds really vague.
No, I like
You
that. I
get
like
everyone
that.
has that little every, everyone's got a little thing inside them, the voice, right? That kind of, what you want to do. Listen to the voice and just go and do that stuff, and don't try and do the other fucking bullshit, spending money and for all the fucking bullshit that it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't. Stop lying to yourself.
100%. Yeah, yes, yeah. I agree with that too. It's like one thing that I try and do, especially because we have technology, is like detox from it to try and get back to like simplicity, because there's so much beauty in in simplicity. And like I find any state of meditativeness, like for I even think for you, for like potentially performing on stage and doing comedy, for me, like reading books is like a completely meditative state. And once you're locked in, you're in it. Like I think as long as
Yeah.
we as humans find more activities that bring that out in us, that we will have a better connection with everything we're doing and how we're living.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. Doing stuff that brings you into the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because
Precisely.
that's what comedy and being with people have in common for me. It's something, it's just a thing that brings you into the moment, that stops you thinking about the future or worrying about the past.
Mm.
Yeah.
I have one final
Just
question
live,
for
bro.
you. Hell yes. What a good sentiment. If you had one piece of advice that you had to share for anyone who's listening to this, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't be a fuckhead. No,
Elaborate. What
I
does
don't
that
know.
mean?
I don't know, man. One piece of advice, just fucking, I guess the stuff that I said before. Find the things, like when I was a kid doing drugs and smashing tram stops. Um, I had a moment with a friend when I was 19, and we were sitting in his shed at his mum's house where we used to smoke weed and drink goon. And goon is what we call wine that comes in a box in
Oh,
Australia.
okay.
That shitty
Oh,
wine.
I'm stealing that. Oh, do you know this saying?
Yeah.
Brew. It's South African. I don't know if you get you
Brew.
brew. BRU.
Brew.
Brew.
Oh, what's that?
Brew is like someone who's more than it's like your best friend. It's like someone you have a deep kingship with.
Oh, that's
They
probably
be your
like bruh.
brew. Yeah,
That's
it's like
probably like bruh.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
but it's
Yeah, no,
South
I don't
African
know
slang.
that.
Goon,
No,
that's
I'm
badass
not.
though.
I'm not across the Safa slang, but yeah, goon, man. That's like box wine.
All right.
So yeah, we used to drink goon and smoke weed in my mate's shed or at his
Mm.
mum's house. And I remember we were just we were both sitting there knowing that what we were doing isn't what we wanted to do forever. We were like, what do you do if you're not doing this? Like, if we just didn't smoke weed and drink goon, what would we do? What do people do all day? And that moment was like, I guess for me, not doing that stuff was finding stuff that I cared about more. It's not that you like have to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to stop taking drugs. Because if you're going to stop taking drugs, well, what are you going to replace? You can't just not do it. You need to have something that you care about more than that thing. And so for me, the start of me finding a path that I was happy with was finding something that I cared about more than taking drugs, which was stand up. So if I got a gig that night, I want to do well, I want it to feel good, and the only way that's going to happen is if I didn't get fucked up the night before, you know.
Smart.
So I guess what I would say to anyone as advice is number one, probably don't listen to me. But number two, find something that you care about more than the self-destructive shit that you do, and do that thing, you know.
Hell yes. That's that's really wise. It's so simple, but it's so wise. And what a cool way to pull yourself out of that. Like, because a lot of people, like, once they find their thing to get them out of substances or whatever, but the fact that you like were able to change your whole mindset and be like, let me just find something that I care about even more than just wasting my time doing this, and that pulled you out of it.
Yeah.
That is it's such a unique rewiring on that perception of the situation. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Appreciate
And
that.
we're getting to the end of our time here. I want to give you a chance before we finish up. First off, thank you so much for your time today, Aidan, and sharing this. And I can't wait for the opportunity if I'm ever at in Australia, or if you're here, to come see a comedy show of yours live. I would
Yeah, thanks,
die for
bro.
that. That would be amazing. But
Chad, that'd be really cool, man. I would love to do that at some point.
hell yes. Do you want to plug? Where can people find you? What do you have going on? Plug
Yeah.
anything you want.
I'm on Instagram, Aidan Jones Comedy, and my website, aidanjonescomedy.com. Follow me on those. And my special will be out, Taco, about me and my biological dad, will be out, I reckon, January, if I had to take a stab at it. Who knows with the way things are, but I reckon January. So yeah, suss those out, or go on if you go on my Instagram, there's like my link tree. And on that, there's all my links for like YouTube, my podcast that I do every Tuesday called Sitting Under a Tree. There's a few videos on my YouTube right now, but yeah, if you had to go to one place, go to my Instagram, because everything else comes off of that.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time today. And as always, folks, stay happy, stay hungry, and we love you. Have a great day.